Marshall.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bruner, I'll start with you. Bristol Myers makes this new miracle drug, Eliquis, relatively a miracle drug. You know, when I was in residency treating patients, I was using Coumadin, heparin, and then Coumadin. It might take 3 or 4 days to get someone heparinized, and then we switch them over to Coumadin. They might be in the hospital for 10 or 14 days. So in its own right, Eliquis, saves money. It saves that length in the hospital and prevents hospitalizations as well. So I want to point that out. And as we talk about rationing care, we've discussed how we're rationing care in foreign countries. But I want you to speak about rationing care in this country. How do PBMs ration care when they take a drug like Eliquis and don't allow it on their formulary? Does that ever happen?
Senator, I'm glad you raised that point. We have had absolutely that case happen on multiple drugs. We've had it happen on Eliquis. We've had it happen where when we have not been able to reach an agreement with an intermediary on a rebate, that they've taken Eliquis off of formulary. And when that happens, those patients no longer have access to Eliquis, and they have to go on to another branded, or in many cases, they may go on to warfarin, as you say. Yeah. Eliquis is the #1 product in the oral anticoagulant space.
Okay. So I'm going to, sorry to catch. So they have to go back to warfarin, the Coumadin, the drug that I was using in medical school in the 1980s, a drug with significant complications, a hassle factor. The patient has to go get blood testing done, maybe twice a week as well. But with your drug, one of the miracle parts of it is A, they don't bleed into their brains anymore, and 2, they don't have to go get their blood testing done once a week as well. So it's a huge amount of innovation. And it amazes me how much power these PBMs have obtained. Let's go to Mr. Davis next. I want to talk about delinking. And you have, at the time, a miracle drug of your own to treat diabetes with. There's a list price. How much of that, what percentage of that list price does typically Merck get at the end of the day?
So, Senator, if you look at Januvia, which is the drug you were speaking to, the list price is $6,900
per year for a year.
Per year for Merck. We recognize $690 on that drug per year.
So of the list price, you're only getting 10%.
It's a 90% discount.
90% discount. Where does the rest of that money go?
Into the middlemen, into the system as a whole.
If we had the time and the energy and a chalkboard, would you be able to explain to me and show me all the little places that goes?
I could, but I think you appreciate it is highly complex, and so complex that at times even learned people who play in the space can't understand.
Well, certainly I can't explain it, and that's my point, is it's so non-transparent. We don't know where this money is going, but certainly we know that the pharmacy benefit managers are taking 50 to 75 cents of that dollar, and you're only getting 10% of it. I would like to know where the rest of it goes. Then I'll go back to Mr. Werner. Similarly, with your drug, with Eliquis, what percent of that list price do you think that you all are taking home?
Senator, it's a relatively smaller percentage. As I mentioned before, we've paid over the last 5 years about $100 billion in rebates and discounts, and the majority of that go to one product, and that's Eliquis.
Okay. Go back to Mr. Davis. Let's talk about, you all have an antiviral drug that's been approved. How many drugs did you go down when COVID hit? You were trying to develop multiple drugs. How many have made it across the finish line? What did you spend on R&D as you look at those all together?
Yeah, so when the COVID situation hit, we drove 2 or 4 key programs, 2 in vaccines, 2 in antivirals. Only one of those succeeded, which is the drug Lagevrio. The total spend across those 4 programs is a little over $2.5 billion. So
you spent $2.5 billion. You got one across the finish line, an antiviral. Is that being used in the United States?
Very little. It has emergency use authorization. It never got to full approval, and so we're actually seeing it being used much more outside the United States.
So in actuality, you spent $2.5 billion and got none of significant market share in the United States despite that. Mr. Wado, I'll talk to you for a second. In my 25 years taking care of patients, we were always able to find a solution for their drugs that they needed. 340B programs, rebates, There's always exceptions to the rules, but what type of efforts does J&J make to work with 340B programs and to help some of these people that need help?
Thank you, sir. We care deeply about patient affordability, but also we care about the sustainability of the rural hospitals and small hospitals that take care of patients that are underserved. So we believe that the 340B program, it's an important program to support those hospitals, and we are fully looking forward to collaborate with them in any way we can to support patient access on those hospitals.
And I'm going to point out once again, it's just not rural hospitals, it's our community health centers are taking great advantage of the 340B program as well, trying to make sure that every patient in America has access to primary care, true affordable access to primary care, plus having access to affordable drugs as well. I might make a couple quick points. The people of Kansas sent me here to save Medicare. To save Medicare, I need a miracle drug to treat Alzheimer's. It seems to me that Americans bear the burden of most of the R&D in this world, and other countries benefit from it. And that impacts the price in many ways as well. Mr. Davis, am I wrong? Why does it feel like to me that Americans are feeling most of the brunt of the R&D cost, or is that not accurate? I don't know.
Well, I think, Senator, it gets down to, as you look across the globe, different markets, and I appreciate what the U.S. does. I think the U.S. favors innovation. It values access for our patients, fast access, most access. Many markets around the world don't do that. What they focus on more is their budget and how do they meet those budget needs, and we appreciate the budgetary constraints that everyone faces. But as a result of that, often patients aren't getting access to meds. They don't get them as fast, which we've commented on today, and it's harder to see how you can support the innovation we need to do in that situation.
Thank you. Senator Baldwin.